Sorry. I've lost access to Facebook.
What happened?
Hold on, we gotta reconnect. I don't know. Let's re-log into Facebook. Why am I logging in? Okay. I better go to the right Facebook. Hello? It says we're live.
All right.
Let's see what happens. Hello.
Hello, apparently live, but we're having some technical difficulties potentially.
I have no idea what this thing's doing. Who's live? It's not telling me I'm live. Like normal. Hi. Okay, let me go check my page. I don't know what's happening, friends.
Hold on, friends, as my wife says.
I don't know if the Facebook's working.
We're not showing it.
It didn't go. Okay, hold on. YouTube's live and this one's behind. Okay, you are now live. Oh, Lord.
We're live on both now, finally?
We are now live.
All right.
So sorry, friends. Don't know what's happening, but welcome to this week's episode of Hollywood Matrimony Live. Oh, goodness. We're now live.
Well, my wife doesn't know what's going on.
So sorry, friends. Yeah, so we are live. I'm going to share the show. Do that right now. Go tell everyone you know to come watch the show. Because, you know, you're going to like it more than whatever the heck's going on out there.
Exactly.
Or watching people lose games.
Don't spoil it.
Well, it may change. It's not a spoiler.
No, I think it's already over.
Oh, sorry. Well, who knows? Whatever. Okay. We have movies
but you won't
to
lose
talk
here
about.
because we get plethora of entertainment.
We have free stuff.
You can never lose on our show.
Correct. You're a winner. Winner, chicken dinner. All right, we're going to talk about movies.
Today's going to be I don't want to say a shorter show. But yeah, we didn't watch as much as we planned to watch.
I'm so tired right now.
Yeah, well, there's been a lot going on. But we also we literally watched...
We watched a lot
bunch
of movies,
stuff
but...
just leading into... We essentially watched 9 movies, but for 2 franchises. So we're going to be talking about 2 separate franchises, both in the horror world, if you will. But one's an animated franchise and one's a slasher franchise. So which one do you like to start with?
We can start with these because they're right here in front of us.
All right. So the first franchise we're going to discuss as of today would be the Hotel Transylvania, which just put out its 4th and technically final film in the franchise, is what they're saying. It was supposed to get a theatrical release, but due to COVID, all the pandemic stuff, Sony actually sold the rights to Amazon, and it became an
Amazon exclusive.
Prime, or I'm sorry, it's Prime Video. It's not Amazon Prime. It's classified as Prime Video.
Sorry.
The PR people will yell at you about it.
Okay, sorry.
I've been yelled at numerous times about, can you please update it? It's not Amazon Prime. It's Prime Video.
Sorry, Prime Video. We love you. So I do.
I think they do that because they're trying to separate the Amazon shopping from the videos. So even though it's all part of Amazon, it's Prime Video and Amazon.
I gotcha.
Anyway, so before we dive into the new one, there has been 3 previous entries into the film series, dating all the way back to what?
I don't know.
Okay, well, let me go back and open it because I haven't. You don't look at it.
I was gonna look. Let me look, but I had to do old lady glasses face.
Well, it's on my review typically. So the first one was just titled
Hotel Transylvania.
That kicked off back in 2015.
2015.
Oh no.
No,
it's 2015 was the second one. 2015 is not. 2012.
Oh my
Why it
gosh.
took you so long to find that?
I didn't see that at all. Where did you see that?
Right there in the copyright, 2012.
I don't even
That's where you go to copyright. Go to copyright, go to copyright. Here's the other problem. If you're looking at this for anybody at home that ever wants to know when a movie's been made and you look on the box,
yes.
Be careful looking at the box because sometimes if it's a re-release or anything else, it will put the date that they re-released it. So you'll have a date of like 2020 and it's like the movie that came in 1974.
I got
But if you look at either in the copyright or if it has like this little box section here, with all the little...
That's where I was looking first.
I know. So if it's not there, always zoom down to the little copyrights. And you see, like here it has 2015 and 2012. 2015 is when this variation
2012.
The 2015 is when this variation of the covers came out. And they put out this one and it had like a bunch of different versions of all the different characters
all
on
the different
cover.
Faces.
Yeah, I hate this cover because I hate ones that are these individual ones. I like the ones that like all the characters in the poster.
Yeah, like the one on our poster here.
Yeah, so yeah, that's the standard poster. In the franchise, some people don't know this, and I always say his name wrong, but I think it's Gendy Tartakovsky. That's how you say his name. He's the one that wrote and created this franchise. Most people don't know, if you don't know him through the animated world, he created Dexter's Laboratory.
Love
one of my favorite cartoons. He also did the original Star Wars Clone Wars micro series. You know, those little vignette ones that they put out.
Yeah.
And he does Primal. He did Samurai Jack. And then he has the Hotel Transylvania franchise. The original film popped out. It had Adam Sandler, David Spade, Steve Buscemi, Selena Gomez, Andy Samberg, Kevin James. It was almost like the entire group of Sandler's cohorts.
Yes.
And then, of course, you added Selena Gomez and a bunch of other people. So tell everybody what Hotel Transylvania is about.
Okay, so the first Hotel Transylvania takes us into the world of monsters. And Dracula has created his own hotel for monsters to come to and vacation where they can be safe away from the evil humans. Because, you know, humans are just out to kill them.
And that's where we're at in the first movie.
The first movie, and yes, and his daughter is turning 18, but that would be 118. So she's now an adult, and his desire is to just protect her from everything bad out in the world. So pretty much like humans would do, but he has to try to convince her that humans are evil, stay away from the world, and in a way, he kind of tricks her. And she finds out that isn't necessarily, not all humans are bad.
Right.
Just like for us, not everybody out there in the world's bad.
And not everybody are monsters.
Not everyone is monsters.
So,
and I always found that to be the interesting metaphor of the entire series is they're normal and humans are the monsters.
Well, that's kind of a metaphor in a lot of horror, is you find out.
Humans can be evil.
Humans are, the people are usually the problem. It's not usually if you think about like the actual story of like Frankenstein, is out of a simple mistake of the monster, then the people, they want to kill him because he's different and he's an abomination, and but then you also look at Walking Dead. The worst things in that show are not the zombies, or the people.
It was the people.
So
the other people. Anyway, so that's where our funny story text is, and it is fun. It's cute. I've always liked these movies.
See, and I did not like the original.
Really?
When we saw it, I remember seeing it with the kids, and I remember I was excited because I liked the Universal monster mentality. Did Universal put this up?
And Dracula's there, the Mummy's there, Frankenstein's there, Invisible Man, Werewolf. So I mean, they're all represented.
Yeah, and I was excited because I like Tartakovsky, I like the cast, I like the monster mentality, and I love animation. And so when I went to see this, I was really excited. And then he's over here. And then I went, it came out, and I was just like, eh.
Really? See,
but
I always thought it was fun.
It's grown on me over the years. I like the sequels initially better. When I saw them. Yeah. And so revisiting the first one again, I actually enjoyed it way more than I used to. And I think now it's because, I don't know if maybe it wasn't what I thought it was going to be back then. I don't know, maybe I was just jaded and grumpier young version.
You were. No. I
don't know what it was.
You were less grumpy back then.
I don't know.
I enjoyed it when we saw it.
But I enjoyed it more now. Yeah. I still think it's the weakest one, to my opinion, of the group. But it's also because it's all this. It all. It is. It's a lot of setup and all this stuff. And I think it was just, as we got to do more, I enjoyed more.
I think I liked it because you get to see that the monsters are just people too. So in a weird way, you're seeing like the other side of like Dracula is just
Right.
like a dad who wants to take care of his daughter. He has a job.
Right.
You know, like all these guys, they want to go on vacation and just hang out. And like Frankenstein has a wife that yells and nags at him, and yeah, it's just funny to me. So I always thought it was interesting and cute.
So the first movie is all really about not only the discovery of being how not all humans are bad. It's also the love story of Dracula's daughter and this human boy coming together in the build of their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Which I don't know if I guess does it end with their wedding, or is the wedding kick in the second one? Right at the beginning of the second one, right?
I think it's part 2.
Okay, so one of the things that I do love about this series is every movie evolves the characters.
Yes.
It's never the same. Some of the story elements don't change, but it's always some new level of involvement of the family, of an individual character, or a relationship. So you feel like it's always a little different, a little newer, right? So we dive into the second one in the franchise, and look here, one with a better cover. It was 2015, aptly titled Hotel Transylvania 2. This time around, we're dealing with not only their marriage, but also having a child.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dracula becoming a grandfather, and then dealing with, I believe they're going on a vacation or something. Or no, he has to watch them while they're on vacation.
Yes.
And then it introduces his father.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Is that this one or is that the third one?
No, he shows up in this one. Because the whole point of this is he's trying to see if the grandson is human or a monster.
And he takes him to the
he takes him on a trip with all the friends of all their old haunts, essentially.
And they go to the monster boot camp and all that stuff. I love the dynamic between the little boy and the little werewolf kids, especially
yes,
because
they're like best friends.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so sweet.
So this one amped up, to me, the second one amped up the fun, and maybe it's because they got out of there, they ran around, they did something, and then it introduced the grandfather that's voiced by Mel Brooks, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Mel Brooks voices the Nosferatu type grandfather to Dracula, and it amped up the fun. They got out of the castle, and I'm always irritated because every one of these types of animated films, inevitably they eventually send them on a vacation.
Yeah, they do.
And part of what loses it for me is when you take them out of their element, because sometimes that element is what makes it work.
Oh my
right?
God. Yeah,
And
I know.
So, are you a fan of the second one as well?
I like the second one. I think it's interesting because, in a way, I mean, I know it's a funny animated movie, but it's that whole story of expectations for your child and what you think they're going to be, instead of just letting them be who they are.
Well, there's an ongoing story element in this franchise about it being okay to be different.
Yes.
And it's not just a monster element. It's the Mavis wanting to be with a human and want to be a human. It's the little boy not being a monster, and the monster is trying to establish, the normalcy of what's normal for them to cohabitate with other people and all that kind of good stuff.
And I think the interesting thing too is you see how it's generational, because Dracula's father shows up and he has the same preconceived ideas of his son not being good enough. So then Dracula's, well, what if my grandson's not going to be good enough? Then this guy's going to say it, so it becomes this whole generational expectations of what you think someone should be, and instead of just letting them be. And I feel like for me specifically, that was really like a thing, because for my culture, it's very much, this is who you should be. This is what you should do. And you do what your parents tell you no matter what, because that is the expectation.
You picked the wrong person and me to be with.
I know. And I know that I'm digging deep into Hotel Transylvania, but it really is.
You picked the wrong person.
No, I picked the right person to break a chain. And
I do whatever the hell I want.
I'm going to have to do a whole post about Encanto because somebody didn't get it. But anyways.
Oh, jeez.
But
was it a white person?
Yes. But I'm just saying, Hotel Transylvania, it's a fun movie. It's a kid's movie. It's a family movie. But it is about deeper things, about just let your kid be who they're going to be.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, It just like in the first one, he needed to let her daughter be who she's going to be, experience life, figure out who she wants to be with, and then figure out how to make it work. And the same thing with the grandson. Now, just let him be who's going to be and make it work.
And I love the element of, while we're dealing with these deeper issues of life and growth, and as we move forward in the franchise, the characters grow but there's still always those little elements. Like, as much as he accepts his son-in-law now, his son-in-law still drives him nuts.
Of course, and that's normal.
Because he's annoying, and it's like
he's a weirdo human to him.
He's really trying to accept him, and now he accepts him who he is, but he's still like, I don't like you, And it's like, I mean, it's like our relationship. Your parents stare at me, and then, but it is what it is. So anyway, and of course, inevitably, in any of these franchises I just mentioned, they eventually go on vacation.
Hotel Transylvania, a monster vacation,
which is aptly also titled Hotel Transylvania 3. But this is the Monster Party edition.
And they go on a cruise.
They do go on a cruise, but it was funny. What I give them props for is they didn't send them on just a normal everyday cruise. It was like a cruise to the Bermuda Triangle.
Yes.
And so it still had a monster twist to their cruise.
Correct.
Which what normally happens is they'll put characters like this on a regular vacation, and then you spend the whole day, they're just dealing with normal
fish out of water.
Yeah, and in this case, they're dealing with not only getting away, and it's all about kind of letting go of what you want to your work and your life, and you gotta recharge and do this stuff. But then there's this other element of the legacy of Dracula that's finally brought in.
Yes.
With somebody trying to kill him and different characters. But it's funny without spoiling it. This one came out in 2018,
I like that you
I believe. So if this is a spoiler,
I like that you care.
I do care.
That's important.
I don't care how old a movie is. I try not to spoil any movie, because
2018 wasn't that long ago.
No, but everybody deserves to experience something for the first time.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is, who it is. Everybody deserves it. It doesn't matter if you say it's movies from 1974, then you deserve to experience it for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
But I had people that tell me I'm never going to watch this. Tell me what happens, and I still can't bring myself to tell them sometimes.
I've had you do that to me.
I know, and I'm like, are you sure? Because it bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
With you, I don't care because you're going to forget it in 5 minutes. So we can go back and watch it. You'll be like, what? I was like, honey, this is what we talked about. You're like, oh, yeah.
No, but if I don't see it, I feel like I don't experience it. So it's okay.
But this one actually is a fun one as well. It has this one I think has a lot more action.
This one is one of my favorites because of the gremlins or whatever, airplane, the gremlins. So the monsters travel on monster airlines, and it's run by a bunch of gremlins. The airplanes are falling apart.
It doesn't land; it just crashes.
Yes, it's like prepare to crash, and then but Johnny's human.
Yeah, so and nobody on the plane is afraid except for him.
Yeah, because they know they could survive a plane crash. It's like that's not going to kill them. And then they get there, and craziness ensues. And I love it because Mavis won't tell Dracula where they're going. He's like, "Where are we going? Where are we going?"
He hates surprises.
And they get there. He's like, "A cruise." He's like, "It's a hotel on a boat." Because he's like, he runs a hotel. Why does he want to go here?
Right.
And the other funny thing is the Mr. and Mrs. Werewolf get to drop off their kids.
Yeah.
And go a whole day without kids, and then they're walking like.
They're like baffled because they don't have 75,000.
Oh my gosh! This to me,
I
know you don't like the vacation movies, but this.
No, but I enjoy
funny.
this. I do enjoy this one. This is one of the few exceptions, and I don't always not enjoy them. I just don't like. I don't understand why that has become a thing. They did that in the new Addams Family animated things. They sent them on vacation.
I know.
Like, and Addams Family, take them back to their house. That's what's awesome.
In their Winnebago.
Yeah, but the other thing that I love is with each movie, once something is resolved in the previous movie, they don't rehash it.
Correct.
Like once he fixes issues with his father, Drac's father, he's now just hanging with the family, and he's running around in this movie in a Speedo and trying to be sexy. He's got his whole nother storyline now, which is hilarious because like the old witches, I think it is, are hot for him.
Yeah, it's disturbing.
And the same thing with new characters that are introduced here that evolve. They show up in the next one and they're evolved. It's never like they're still having to deal with that same thing over and over. They seem to take it to another level each time.
Yes.
So before we talk about the new one, of these three, which one's your favorite? Of the original trilogy.
I kind of like the vacation one.
Do you the third one?
Yeah, because we've evolved the characters enough that we don't have to do backstory. And we learn something new about the characters, I feel like. We get to see them in a new setting. And bringing in those other new characters that are kind of after him adds another layer of depth and complexity to the story of Dracula.
Yeah, because that dives into the Dracula
and then
mythology.
It continues on to the new movie. So I kind of like the third one.
And it allows Dracula to grow as a character.
Correct.
Because he's the only one of the few that doesn't grow a lot.
Well,
between the two, other than mentality.
he does in the new one.
In this one, he does more. So now we're heading into the new one, which is the first one that does not have a numerical aspect to its name. It's Hotel Transylvania. Transformania, which annoys me because I'm like, look, you've had this pattern. Just say part 4.
I agree,
but whatever.
I'm going to call it number 4.
That's what we'll call Hotel Transylvania 4.
Okay.
So this latest one, we dive back into the same group, same hotel, same family. They're dealing with new things, but this time he's overworked, or not overworked. He's
ready to retire.
He's thinking of retirement, and so now the discussion is who's going to go get the hotel, who's going to do what. And the son-in-law is trying to show him that he's worthy of being there to help take care of things or whatever. So he decides that maybe I need to be a monster because they don't believe in me. And then, of course, crap happens. And so this time, it's not a spoiler, it's in the trailer. It's due to circumstances, we get a big shift, which gives this film a whole new dynamic where all the monster characters become human, and he becomes a monster. So now you have they get to deal with new problems and understanding things. And I love the angles they went with some of the characters. The Transformanias didn't really make sense in general, but it's a cartoon. Did. Yeah, but like Frank's made no sense.
The commercial, yeah, I know. In the commercial, he's all like,
yeah, and neither did Blobby. His really didn't make sense either, but it was funny.
It was hilarious. That was the best. I think one of the best. This isn't really a spoiler, but one of the zombie bellhops is like, and he's like, "I'm human again,"
and then he gets turned right back. It's that
it's joke. So funny. It's one of those, but I just thought this was such a fun movie.
I was really. I'm not gonna lie. I was worried when it got put to Amazon that I was like, oh, okay, this might be the end up being cheesy. Plus, a couple of the original cast members didn't come back.
Yeah, what's up with Adam Sandler? I'm not going to call you out, but I'm calling you out.
Brad Abrell and Brian Hull replaced Kevin James and Adam Sandler, respectively, as Frankenstein and Dracula. So when you change voice actors, it then makes you, okay, is it going to hurt the characters?
Yeah.
I honestly didn't notice the difference.
I didn't either. So it's fine.
You know, that shows the skill of the voice actors being able to just latch onto that thing, and that's what they do.
Yeah.
But sometimes you get those ones that slightly do their own thing with it.
A little bit off, but not too far off.
I was happy that you can't even really tell the difference.
Yes, I agree.
I don't know why they wouldn't have come back unless they just either didn't have time or like we're tired of that.
The funniest one is like, there's no way you could ever replace Fran Drescher. So I'm glad Fran Drescher. There's just no. I mean, maybe there is. But I don't think
I've just never understood, honestly, when you have a franchise, why wouldn't you always come back?
I agree, especially this is just an animated series. You could right now you could probably record it in your home and
most
then
of them are recording stuff in their house and stuff, and I don't understand.
Maybe Adam Sandler's very busy and we
maybe I don't get it. I can understand getting tired of doing something, but even then it's like this is that easy paycheck.
I agree.
Just do the work, do the voice.
Well, good job to Brian Hull for Dracula.
And of course, we don't know their circumstance.
Correct.
It's like,
we're just saying.
It's the same way as like if you have a mass franchise like a Spider-Man or a Batman, and they say, "All right, I'm done playing Batman." You know, Hugh Jackman is one of the few that I actually was okay with him stepping out because he did like 8 or 9 movies.
That and even like the poor dude in
James Bond.
Yes. Because that man,
he did 5 movies, but
he's in amazing shape. But dang, give the guy
that's
a break.
What I'm saying is they got older. Hugh Jackman even said
Hugh Jackman's like, it's a lot.
Harder to keep that, and I get that part. That's a physical thing, but stuff like this, or if you're a younger person,
I'd be like, okay.
Howard Stern talks about this all the time too. He's like, if you cast me as Spider-Man, I'm gonna play Spider-Man until I'm dead, or they throw me out.
Correct.
He goes,
then I'll still do some cameos.
He goes, make a Spider-Man movie, then make 13 of your artsy crap. Then go make another Spider-Man movie because there's time in between.
Yeah.
And Adam Sandler and Kevin James are doing like Netflix stuff, so it's not like
they're BFFs though, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, so is David Spade and
is he still in this one?
Yeah, they all came back.
Okay.
That's why I thought it was kind of weird, but everybody are doing their own work.
What else? So, anywho,
no telling why. Or maybe
but the voices didn't. I didn't notice anything.
Yeah, maybe it's a budget thing, and they like, look, we can't bring you back for what you pay.
Because it's an Amazon. I mean, sorry, a Prime.
It was still a Sony movie when it was made.
Oh,
so they got sold after the fact. So anyway, what did you think of the new one?
I really liked the new one. I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, in a way, Johnny, the son-in-law, is a little bit annoying to begin with. So then I was like, oh, he's going to be a monster and annoying. But I thought it was funny seeing everyone else in their human form of what they would have been, or how they were at the beginning. And so,
and all of it's none of it's what you would have expected them to be.
And I love the Invisible Man. It's the Invisible Man.
Oh,
it's funny. Yeah, Frankenstein didn't make sense because in reality, his parts from other people, so he should have been whatever.
But I did like what they did with it. It was funny.
Yes, and I
love because they made him so dapper, but his wife was disgusted by him.
Yes, because she was a monster.
It was the whole monsters mentality.
Yes,
Maryland.
Maryland.
It was a Maryland, yeah.
It's like, oh, honey, you'll be okay.
Yeah, sorry you're so ugly.
Yeah, so funny. Anyways, I just thought it was so fun. And again, we see further progression and growth of our characters, which I appreciate. And we do see tremendous growth on the part of Dracula because he has no powers. He can't mind control you. He can't.
He tries.
He can't be all suave and debonair because now, like you see in the commercial, he's like, I've got dad bod. So, I mean, all of what he's used to being able to get his way, he doesn't have.
He's got to start. But now he starts. This was a very clever way for him to start understanding the son-in-law.
Yeah, Johnny.
He understands how he has to deal with things and how life is and how, okay, you're different now. Obviously, doesn't explain why he's such a dunderhead.
No, but in a way, the sacrifices and even all the extra effort Johnny's had to put in all these years being part of their family.
Yeah.
So it was a really good movie. I enjoyed it.
It was fun. I'll have to admit it was a good, and it's a good cap to the franchise if they don't make another one.
Yeah.
It's a cartoon, so it's not like breaking down the walls of film, but it's a fun little series, and I'm kind of glad it hit Amazon Prime because it's easier to watch at home.
Yeah.
More people may see it, and who knows, it could do well enough. It doesn't say the final chapter, but they have announced it as the last one, but. Who knows? It does well enough. They may still do another one. So.
It's really good. You should check it out.
Animation is great, like always. It's fun. You can see the characters do new things. So, like I said, it's not like a rehash of everything else.
And everything that you do know from the other movies has continued and culminated into this. Characters you learn in 3 show up in 4. So this is one of those where it would be very helpful if you've seen the other movies.
You need to see all of them, or some of the story doesn't make any sense.
Please don't be.
Yeah, we've been discussing this before hold on. Hotel Transylvania Transformania is available on Prime Video now. Now, I don't know if the rest of them are, but I can tell you the 4th one is. That's all I can tell you. So you have to find the other ones if you haven't seen them. They are obviously available on Blu-ray. But talking about franchises, sequels, I do not understand the concept of watching a sequel if you've never seen the original. I can understand you watching a remake and never watching the original. Although I don't think you should, but if you do, if you've never seen, like I know for you, sometimes there's movies you've never seen the originals, and I tend to make you watch the new one first.
Yes.
So you don't have a preconceived notion and you can have an honest opinion
of
the original, then go back and watch the original, and then you say, okay, this is which one I like better. But watching something that continues like this, like Star Wars, like I don't know, Lord of the Rings, anything that has one before it, it makes no sense to go watch the later ones. Now, if you don't know there's other ones,
correct. Like, what's the werewolf one with the sisters? Like, there's the one that's a prequel that just has a name.
Ginger Snaps.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Ginger Snaps, Ginger Snaps 2, and then there's Ginger Snaps 3, but it's a prequel to the other 2.
It's not called Ginger Snaps 3. I think it's Ginger Snaps Back.
I think that's the same. I'll have to go look.
Whatever. I think it has a random name.
The third one was a prequel.
So you may not have ever known there was another one. I can give you that.
Yeah.
But when it's something like something 2 or something 3, it tells me there are others that I should probably go find.
And I've never understood, now if it's a big franchise and you're somebody that knows the history and the story of the franchise and haven't seen the movie, I can almost get over it that way.
Yeah.
Like I've seen the first one, I didn't watch the others, but I know this happens, this person died, this, you might have researched it. It's when you go, oh, I don't know, I haven't seen any of those. I don't know anything about this. Then I'm like,
we have to question.
Stay home.
We have to question you.
By God, don't talk to anybody about anything or say anything about a movie unless you ask them if they've seen it first.
Yes.
Like just because we go to screenings together doesn't mean we're always at screenings together. Especially nowadays, majority of the screenings we go to is press only, which means just the press, no people with us. So, like, if you post you're at a screening, most times you're there by yourself. If I post, I'm there by myself.
Sometimes.
Even now, anytime I talk to somebody, they're like, hey, did you see this? I'll be like, hey, have you seen such and such first? Even if I know they watched, I'll be like, you saw so-and-so, right? They'll be like, yeah. I'm like, okay, then I'll talk about it. But don't just start spouting out.
Well, and even so, I mean, today, like, we were going to talk about something, and they're like, whoa, what are you talking about? Because I haven't seen it. And they're like, oh, the first episode, I haven't seen it. I'm like, oh, okay. So
then you all stop talking.
Then we stop talking.
I talked to somebody online one time about, I think it was with Spider-Man. And it was a friend that said, okay, I'm giving everybody until Monday, and then I'm going to post my spoiler thoughts right here.
That's fair.
And I'm like, well, see, I disagree with that as well, because I told him, I said,
I mean, it's not necessary.
No, because just because it was talking about, I said, why not start a private thread that the only people who can see it are the friends that you invite to see it, because you know they've seen it, and then y'all can discuss the movie. Just posting it. Because the problem with posting stuff is most of the time, if you get spoiled with something, or you see something you don't want to see, it's not because you saw and clicked on it. It's because it shows up on your feed, and the first thing you see is there.
Well, is there a way to be like spoiler? Like I want to have shows of these that are spoiler shows.
Right. Well, that's why you start the show and say this is a spoiler show,
and have a banner
in the title.
Spoiler show.
Like, I know a lot of people are really smart about saying, "Hey, I saw such and such movie, and I want to talk. I'm going to say something I have questions about for anybody that's seen it. So beware spoilers below." And then they put a whole lot of dots that you have to scroll down to see it.
Yeah, that's true.
And then you have manually created a choice.
Correct.
But if you just slap on there, hey, did you know Darth Vader was Luke's father? And then everybody's like, but what? That's wrong. Because you're stealing stuff from other people, especially even more so now in a pandemic where there's still people that don't feel safe to go to the movies.
Correct.
Or they can't go because they're sick or whatever. It's
I don't want to
sad.
ruin it for you.
Yeah, it's sad. Everybody deserves to experience.
For the
first time. We said all that craziness. Just jump into the next franchise, which is one of your franchises.
This is one of mine.
Love this franchise.
Recently, someone asked me what's my favorite scary movie.
And it's Leonard Part 6.
But there is no 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
There is, in fact, not. And it's even scarier now because Bill Cosby stars in it.
Yikes. So my favorite scary movie is this one right here.
The Scream franchise. It was written by Kevin Williamson and directed by Wes Craven. Fun fact, Wes Craven wasn't interested in it.
Really?
I believe he came onto it, if I remember correctly, later. So we're going to do kind of a deeper dive into the Scream franchise. Not super deep because we want to spend time talking about the new one, but we'll be spoiler-free as much as we can. And I want to still be spoiler-free as much as we can on the originals.
We'll try.
But
yes,
we'll do what we can. All right. So what I'd like to ask you as a hardcore fan.
I don't know if I'm super hardcore, but I'm gonna...
Well, I mean, you're hardcore from the standpoint you love these movies.
This movie came out in 1996.
Yeah, you old.
I'm going to spoil this. Sorry.
You better not. They just re-released it on 4K recently.
Oh, my goodness.
But what I want to know now is someone who's a hardcore fan.
Yes. And
I'm saying hardcore fan because you love these movies.
I do love those movies. They're fun.
We have 5 movies and we have 3 seasons of the TV series.
Yes.
All 3 seasons, I believe, are on Netflix. What is your favorite entry, including the new one, before we discuss them? Now that you've seen all 5, I've seen the new one twice.
I really like the new one. I want to say the number 5, but we couldn't have a number 5 if there wasn't a number 1. So I'm going to say number 1. I think the original Scream was very smart for its time period. It took the slasher genre and elevated it. Mm-hmm. It became self-aware. It brought the audience into the movie as another, not just a voyeur watching the movie, but you become a potential victim of the serial killer because you are, in essence, one of the people in the genre with them. Like, you are going on this trip with them.
Makes you feel like you're in the world with them.
Yes, yeah. And it's elevating it, and it's bringing you in because it's like, don't you know the rules of a movie? And when I saw this first, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize. Like, I knew, but I didn't realize.
See, and I always thought it was funny.
You can't do this. You can't drink. You can't say this. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
What's funny about all that is that was the kind of discussions me and some of my friends would always have about horror flicks. About, oh, they're going to have sex, they're going to die. If you go a room somewhere, all the stuff they say in these movies came from hardcore horror fans, Kevin Williamson clearly being one.
Yeah.
And when he wrote the screenplay which I don't know if he did the screenplay or the original story or how it works. That's all gets convoluted and confusing for me.
That's okay.
But it's his baby. It was one of those things that was different at the time. Some people had billed it as a comedy horror. Because it's got some laughs in it.
I crack up in these movies.
They are funny, but they're still kind of
serious.
Intense.
Yes.
The first one and the new one are the only two that I think are really horror.
Yeah.
The middle three are horror-ish, where they're not as scary. There's not as many jump scares. And you also kind of know what to expect. The new one kind of took it back to the original.
Yeah, I was like, whoo.
Which we'll discuss in a second. But I think there is a disconnect, I think, for like one of our friends just dived into the franchise prior to watching this new one. And they felt the first one was a little cheese, a little hokey. They liked it.
Yeah.
But they loved the new one way more than the original. But I think the problem is they're seeing the original one now.
Yes.
We saw it when it was like, what? You can't do that. It was changing the dynamic of horror. It's like watching the original Star Wars today for the first time, as opposed to watching it for the first time in 1977.
Correct.
It's
way
a
more
polar
impactful.
Opposite mentality.
I think, too, if you think of it in today's age and you see it for the first time, you may feel it's dated just with the phones or the landlines.
It is dated.
And some of that.
But it's not dated in a way that you can't just enjoy
I
it.
agree. But the interesting thing throughout the series is there's still a landline telephone that people are calling. Like, that never went away.
Yeah.
They've incorporated cell phone and other things, but it's interesting that it's taken us on this trip. And I agree. I think if you saw the original one in 1996, it was so smart for a slasher movie and so impactful that I can't get that out of my brain. That's why I like it.
Well, and the
so
big
much.
thing too was about it is a lot of the people in this movie were no names.
Correct.
We knew who some of them were, but not really.
We knew
Drew Barrymore was like the star.
Correct. That's why she's
she's front and center on the poster. And by killing her at the first,
you were like, what?
5 minutes of the movie, that immediately made you go, "Holy crap, we're in for something different."
What the heck is happening?
You were used to the main girl always lives. Whoever's on the poster is going to survive. Their friends might die, but the main girl's going to always live.
And there's really no reason.
Yeah,
kind of revenge, I guess, but not really, because that's not the main objective of the movie.
Yeah,
the main objective is always Sydney.
Yeah, and then it started. You're like, wait a minute, it's kind of like there's some other movies like that to where you spend the entire movie and then you end up realizing that this wasn't the main girl, it's this person the whole time, and that changes the number. And there's a lot of movies that have done that now.
That's what horror movies do, and I think that's why it was so smart. And I think in a way, I'm sorry to cut you off. I get excited about this.
Told you.
This is what started out for me, the idea that horror movies can be elevated ways of thinking and disseminating information, and even very like things that we need to talk about. Like, what am I thinking? Like, it's not just slasher stuff. It's like
talking about like
topics of interest, and like we need to be talking about racism or the disparity between rich and poor, and all these things you can now evolve. And like, to me, like, my favorite movie also is the Midsommar, because it's an elevated way of talking about loss. And throughout the movies, they mention other horror movies, and you start seeing it's not just slasher. It is, but it's now an elevated way of thinking and passing along information and topics that are important to us as a society.
Well, it's like one of my favorite horror films is High Tension.
Yes.
Which is literally dealing with trauma.
Oh my gosh.
Personality issues.
It's mental health.
Mental health.
That's what it's about.
All wrapped up in
an amazing,
insane movie.
Splatter everywhere.
That the twist on it, you're just like, what? And
yes, it got me.
Anyway, if you haven't seen High Tension,
that is one of yours, and you're like, babe, I saw this movie. You're gonna have to watch this movie.
It's probably one of my all-time favorite horror films.
It is really good.
Anyway.
Sorry.
So the first Scream kind of set the tone for everything, and it's self-aware in nature. of not only creating the rules and everything of the horror franchise and making everybody realize what you already knew, but may or may not even realize you knew.
Right.
The laughs, the comedy, the characters. And funny enough, there was numerous characters that were supposed to have died in this movie that ended up living on. Some of them made it all the way to the new one. Some of them did not. But that takes us.
They live in our hearts.
But what that movie did is not only change the game. Before this movie was released, Williamson already had an idea for the sequel, and I guess it was doing well enough that while it was in theaters, he had already started developing, and I think they even went into production on the second one. And it became even more self-aware by now making a movie about the events of the first movie,
correct?
Which is the franchise Stab,
the movie within a movie,
which was a genius direction in the bigger picture because it gave them a way to keep feeding the fuel of what's going on, of the meta nature of it, by now having a film to make fun of or use as reference to keep the story going. All the way to the point of the third one where you're actually on set of the film. So going into the second one, one of the things I always worried about was once you had your big twist of the first one and it's essentially resolved, how do you deal with the second one? How can you possibly do more? Because it's done. It's not supernatural horror. It's not. It's not killers like you have the other ones, where they can always come back. Every film is a different person.
Correct.
It's never this. The only same person about it is they have the same tailor. They have the same ghost face mask and costume, but it's always a different person.
Correct.
But it's always circles back to Sydney.
Correct. Well,
and you can't have one of these movies in theory without the connection to Sydney.
The first one, yeah.
Even the original, this new one, you can finally move on and not be connected to Sydney anymore, but you still kind of need her.
You need her. That's why I said I love the new one.
Yeah. You
so
kind of
much.
need her, but she doesn't need to be the focal point.
But it couldn't happen without the first one.
Yeah.
So then you get to the second one, and it comes back to like maybe the one unresolved issue from the first movie is we find out Cotton Weary's innocent. So now we dive into who's Cotton Weary.
Which is so weird. Can I just say?
He was on there for like that long. And then
Ray Donovan,
now we have a new movie.
Liv Schreiber has the series Ray Donovan.
Love Ray Donovan.
Just had a new Ray Donovan movie come on through HBO or Showtime. And apparently the reason they made this movie is because they were supposed to be a season 8, which was supposed to be the final season. It got canceled before that.
Yeah.
So they made a new Ray Donovan movie. So I've gone back to finish the 2 seasons. I need to go
finish that.
The 2. I'm in the middle of finishing up the final 2 seasons before watching the movie. And it's so weird. We're like at the same time I'm watching Ray Donovan, we're revisiting Scream.
Badass and Ray Donovan.
I'm watching him as this little goofy.
This is when he was so young.
I know, but in the second one, he's all about, he's trying to get he's trying to make money off of what happened.
And I'm thinking Ray Donovan would be like, look.
Because he's screwed over and he's trying to make money. And then my next flash is flashing him playing Sabretooth. He's a badass as Sabretooth. True. The movie, you may not love the movie, but I liked him as Sabretooth. But then going back to Ray Donovan, he's so depressed and he's violent. And I'm like, that's Cotton Weary.
That's what I'm telling you.
But when I watched Ray Donovan prior to this, I didn't even think about Cotton Weary.
But when you see, when Ray Donovan, I'm like, oh, Cotton Weary.
When it started, maybe.
And remember first season, I'm like, man, Cotton Weary grew up.
Yeah. When it first started the series back when it was brand new, I get that. But trying to watch the show and these movies
at the same time is probably
now
a trip.
I see him beating somebody up, and like now when he gets his ass whooped, I'm like, get up, Cotton. Yeah.
Okay, so 2 is Cotton Weary, but then also, like you said, it's the movie within a movie, so self-aware, so
it also adds a new dynamic to Sydney's frustration because her life this trauma that she went through,
is now
everybody knows because of this book and this movie existence, and now it's not only her dealing with the trauma, which is something else you don't get in these slasher flicks that often, is somebody's elevation of trauma. That's why the new Halloween movies work well, because we get to finally see the Jamie Lee Curtis's
evolution.
Cray. Whereas when we first saw her in the H2O or whatever they brought her back, she was already just fine.
Yeah, no.
This one
better.
This acts like somebody that's been through some crap.
Yeah, but the movie within a movie allows us to bring in new characters. But because it's based on somebody's life, it connects us back to the original story. And dang old Woodsboro, like I'd be leaving Woodsboro.
I don't know why
I would never live there. Like, no, thank you.
That whole town should have been condemned.
Really, but what I like about now the stab movies in Scream 2 going on is you see the craziness of the fans and people like, let me get my costumes. But that's what we do.
Yeah.
Like me, I got so excited because I saw this lady in her midsummer dress. I'm like, let me go. And then I
we saw a
realized
lot of them. It wasn't like
and I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are actually in a cult. Why am I following them around to get a picture? But that's the idea of the fandom and how you get to get so involved in these movies, and even when you get to part 3, they're like, you realize this is based on somebody's real life. Like these people really died.
And the third one kind of involves, like the second one is another one. It's a really great sequel. It does do some stuff once again to be like, well, crap.
It gives you the rules
a legacy
of the
character gets taken out, and you're like, okay, people are still not safe in this movie.
No.
And of course, poor Dewey, which is not really a spoiler, the guy gets murdered every movie and then somehow survives.
Barely survives.
Apparently, he was really supposed to have died, I believe, in the first movie.
In the first
but people liked him so much, they brought him back. He has his best death, I want to say, in the third one.
Is
that the one where he gets slammed in the glass?
Yes.
I think that's the third one, right? That's when they're on the set.
This is on the set.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think his death in the third one was his best death.
Oh, was that in the college? That was at the college.
Was that the college one?
Yep.
Okay. Well, that was his best death. He gets slammed against the glass, blood all over the glass, and she watches him, what you think he's dead, and of course Dewey never dies.
Anyways.
And that's not a spoiler because he's in the trailer for the new movie. So
Scream 3.
This one I thought was, even though it's the least favorite of most people, this to me was the most genius direction, not in the movie as a whole, because it now made the Stab movie franchise part of the actual story, not a background part of the story. They're on set of the new movie.
Correct.
And so now not only do we have...
Maybe it was Scream 2, babe, when she's at college. I think you're right.
That's fine. But now that we're...
You're right, Scream 2, because Scream 2 is the one where Buffy's in it.
Yes.
And they're in film school. So yes, that's one of his...
So in the third one, they're on set of the new Stab movie. We're still dealing with stuff. Now people have evolved again. Weary's evolved. Everybody's got different jobs. Everybody's doing things. Dewey's working as like a security/agent, whatever, not a cop anymore. And you're doing a lot of different things. But now you also have the actors playing the characters that are the real characters in the movie.
So again, very aware.
So it's very meta, and the most annoying one, which is still funny too, which is Parker Posey.
I love her in this movie.
She's playing Gail Weathers, who's played by Courtney Cox, and they're both having to play Gail Weathers, even though she's an actress playing her, and so she's trying to mimic her, and it's really funny how it annoys each other. You have your Sidney Prescott, you have your Dewey, you have all these people, and so they make fun of their own meta aspects of who's playing them. But then the murders, and then it's to me, I thought it was very clever because it evolved. It took itself and said, okay, this is part of our world now. Let's screw up that part of the world too, because now Hollywood's being affected by the franchise within the franchise that was affected by Hollywood.
And I think that really does happen because sometimes when they're trying to do these true Hollywood stories, and then they get in trouble because they go into areas and places of people's lives where they really shouldn't be going.
Yeah.
And I like in this one, if you see Dion Richmond, who's on the poster for Scream 3.
Bud.
We finally deal with, and he says it out there, like, I can't be here because the black guy dies first. Like, I like that we're dealing with it in a funny / horror way, but it is very self-aware. And now we're bringing into that in the idea of someone portraying someone that's dealing with the trauma, because the girl in this, it's playing Sydney, you can tell like she's jacked up too, because she has her own trauma of just trying to get into this movie and what she's had to do to get there, playing Sydney who has the trauma. I mean, it's like this whole big trauma circle.
Well, and it's funny too, because this one also, I think an underlining interesting effect on this one is it also opened the door to bring in some bigger people like the late Roger Corman, who was a big-time producer, Hollywood guy, Lance Hendrickson, all these people. But it also, the element of the story that, of course, ties back to the original film again. But it talks about the effects of Hollywood on young people and the really, it's ironic of Rose McGowan being one of the people that brought up a lot of the Me Too stuff.
Yeah.
The third movie deals with a Me Too element
Yes.
of the casting couch kind of mentality and the abuse in Hollywood and how that affects things. And it plays back to the story elements that, sure, it can be convoluted, but it's an interesting that would kind of make sense why other things in the first movie ever happened in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't need to be that.
Correct. But it's all connected.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And that's why I always thought these movies were just so smart. Because it's like one random throwaway thing that happened in part 1 leads us to part 3. But 3 couldn't happen without 1. So then we get into the whole Planet of the Apes thing. Like, if this didn't happen, this couldn't have happened to begin with. You know, so it's just so smart.
So that franchise was essentially over at part 3. We thought it was done.
We were done.
Yeah. So they finally decided, you know what? Years and years later, it was like 2018 or
I believe
15 or whatever it was, whenever the fourth one came out.
Let's go find out.
Kevin Williamson and Wes Craven came back together to make the fourth one. They did not. Wes Craven did direct the third one, but Williamson did not write the third one. There's a different story for the third movie that Williamson wrote, but they changed it. I don't remember what it was. I read an article about it. It was actually pretty interesting of what he was going to go. But for whatever reason, he was busy with something else. But anyway, they came back together to make the fourth movie, which was kind of their attempt as a reboot the franchise. It was initially meant to be a new trilogy. And it was going to bring a new set of characters, but here comes the legacy characters. It's still connected to the original franchise while doing its own thing. I liked Scream 4. It didn't get, a lot of people bashed it. It didn't do as well as they hoped to, obviously, because we didn't get the trilogy that they planned.
Right.
It wasn't, obviously, it's much like these kind of movies. It's not really the follow-up story I would have wanted, but I liked the movie.
It's fine. I mean, we do see that Sydney, our main character, has evolved to a point where she's processed her trauma. She's written the book. And again, why would you go to Woodsboro to do a book promotion is beyond me. Like, stay away from this town. You know how many
books you could sell going to the place where it happened?
I guess.
That's the other thing. Speaking of that real fast, I like going back to, I think it's the third one, and you start seeing the evolution of Sydney, where like she actually became a crisis phone operator helping suicidal people.
Helping other people.
While kind of in hiding. It was her very Jamie Lee Curtis Halloween thing. She was up in the woods and hiding, but she was doing a job that could help people deal with the same kind of trauma she dealt with, which shows that was her healing process.
Yes. So in 4, she's kind of processed and she's over that.
Yeah. She's finally figured out, you know what, maybe I need to bring this story to the public and tell my story and whatever. And then more connection to the rest of the family and the life.
Yeah, there's obviously she has family, so there's connection. She has other family in Woodsboro. That's her connection. What I like about 4 is that
his abs.
No, so 1, 2, 3, we have the trilogy. So 4, the rules for part 4 is like, what? There's a part 4. How can you do this?
Yeah, and the one of the problems with part 4 is it broke up that everyone's safe mentality.
Correct.
It doesn't have that element.
That's why I'm telling you, the rules now are out the door.
No, let me rephrase that. It broke the rule that nobody's safe. This movie felt more like, okay, we kind of know who's going to live, who's going to die. Yes, there's a twist and all that stuff, but it didn't have that. They didn't kill anybody that made you remember like the other ones. Because all 3 of those movies, you know, Barrymore starts it. Then you have the legacy character in the second movie that dies. Then you have another legacy character that dies at the beginning of the third one.
Yes.
And you keep realizing, holy crap, they keep killing these characters off that are main characters.
You know,
the new one didn't really have that, but it's also because we don't care about who these people are yet. We're just meeting them.
We're just meeting them, like just finding out.
And we're running out of people to kill.
She has a new family, but I think it's interesting that
this franchise has killed more than COVID.
Some of your rules remain the same. You know, it's always a group of friends. It's got to be somebody that you know, because that's just based on fact of serial killers in general or people that abduct people. It's always somebody you know. Anywho,
or connected.
But what I like about 4 is it really evolves us to the present state we're in of connectivity with the audience. So the one kid's always videotaping like his entire life.
Yeah, the
there's internet cams. It's being,
even though it's kind of before that time,
it's being streamed online. Like the killings are being, and that's kind of where we're all now today, where people record this crap and put it on Facebook, which is dumb because then you're going to get caught and whatever. But that's where we're at in the evolution of time. So we do evolve from 1996 technology per se. But what I like throughout the series is it's still a big old knife is going to come kill you. And I like the simplicity of our killer. It's just a knife.
Can we also talk about the clumsiness of every person that tries to become Ghostface?
Well, they're not professional killers.
That's what I'm saying. It's awesome.
They're no Dexter.
I love that. I love that every one of them can get knocked down. They trip on themselves. They fall around. It looks like somebody who's really trying to swing a knife that doesn't have any knife training. They're not fighters. They're just crazy people, and if somebody hits you with something, it knocks you down. If you swing hard enough, you fall down. I've always loved that element that you always felt unsafe and scared, but you never were like, oh my God, I can't get away. Correct. You could get away from this person. If
you really try.
You may not, but there's a chance to get away from this person. When you see somebody that tries to kill you trip over a chair or something and it falls down, that tells you immediately that there's still a chance. Even if you die, there's a chance. That's one of the things that I thought in the new one, once we talked about it, how much brutal it was, that it took some of those elements to the new level. Mm-hmm. But
and then I like too in this one, we know there's now like 6 or 7 stab movies. So again, it's keeping alive the movie within the movie based on all these different books of people's lives. And again, someone has to be like, don't you remember the first one's based on somebody's real life?
Well, they talk about the early, we'll move into the first one, which is just something I hate that they did, but I get it, which is now just called Scream. Mm-hmm. Just like the original movie, which I don't like that because then it separates, it doesn't separate it from its original and makes some people maybe think it's a remake. But it is, in fact, Scream5. But once you see the movie, it makes sense.
It makes sense why.
And
it presents us the new rules.
One of the things, there's a throwaway line, because in the new movie, they're up to stab 8.
Yeah,
we're 5 movies in, but we have stab 8.
Yeah, there's 7 up to now.
There's a throwaway line in it when they're discussing stab, and they talk about all the early movies. The reason this thing went off the rails is all the early movies were based on actual events.
Yeah, so the first 3 stab movies were based on the life of Sidney Prescott and all the stuff that really happened. Then they just started making
crap up.
Then after that, they returned to just normal stab movies, and people didn't like it.
And then 8 is all about, let's reinvent the horror. They gave me flamethrowers. They do all this nonsense. Mm-hmm. And it's actually a callback to, I don't know if you caught this, but they actually call back in the movie to Rian Johnson. Who made Rise of Skywalker, that got the most toxic fandom attacks because they didn't like the changing of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
And I believe if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on this, I have to look it up. I believe he actually worked on the elements of Stab 8 in this movie.
That's so funny.
If I'm not mistaken. But but the writer, they talked about the directors and the writers actually did this on purpose. They referenced him because they saw how the toxicity in the new film deals a lot with the toxic fandom. And that's the elevation of the discussion, the elevated horror mentalities, toxic fandom.
Yes.
By using the stab movies as the basis to talk about, okay, this is why this killing may be happening again. Somebody's doing something. Again, it's connected all the way back again, but in a different way, in a pretty clever way.
And it's funny because even though we're watchers of Scream, within the thing watching Stab, like the whole Stab series, it's like Stab 2, Stab 3, Return to World, Stab 4 is like Hollywood Reporter, Stab 6 is the Ghostface Return, Stab 7. So it's aware of itself.
Yeah.
And it's aware that these kids are watching these, and at the beginning of every movie after like 3, you see that they're just watching the movies until we get to the new one, where we have like the last one, I guess, whichever one with Kristen Bell and Anna Paquin.
The
4.
The one that's got the double element at the beginning? Yeah.
The movie within the movie within
life. Like 3 levels?
Yeah. But it's funny because it's self-aware, and like you said, it's bringing up to us, the viewer, making us aware that they're aware of this whole weird universe that gets created because of these movies. And there are people that we know and we've seen that literally believe they are the character that they dress up as.
Yeah,
I'm like, Okay.
Obviously,
I'll
I'm a
let you do
massive
that.
Star Wars fan. I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt. I have an entire office upstairs at Star Wars wall to wall. She has an entire office. It's wall to wall Buffy stuff. And when I walk out of there, I don't think I'm a Jedi.
Correct.
She doesn't.
Although,
she does think she's a
I'm a vampire slayer.
But we have friends that they cosplay, and more power to them. But they believe not necessarily that they're. I'm not saying who it is, but we'll say Wolverine. They don't believe that they're physically Wolverine, but they'll talk like they are. They'll refer to themselves.
I think it's somebody else that thinks they are.
Well, I'm just using a generic term of the character.
So sad.
We're probably thinking of the same person,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm talking about I'm using Wolverine as a generic. But they make references like, talk like it's them or they're part of that universe. In reality, they just have a costume and they go to a convention. And that's fine. It's their thing. But that's how this stuff becomes believable. And you also hear about the stories of people that have assassinated musicians because their obsession with the music. People that have killed actresses or actors because they were in love with them.
I would be scared to be famous because of that.
Yeah, because you hear all the time about somebody that got arrested or somebody that broke into somebody's house, or somebody murdered somebody or
because they loved them so much.
Yeah, not because they hated them, because they loved them.
And then that's where, too, the other flip side of that is that you like these stars as long as they agree with what you agree with. Because once you have stars that actually speak out and share their thoughts and their feelings, it's like, oh, you shouldn't be saying, just go do a movie and shut up. I'm like, well, what do you want?
That's that thing that we've talked about this numerous on the show is when we get into politics or race or religion or sexuality or anything that happens in the world, everybody thinks they have the right to speak up unless you're an athlete, an actor, or politician. You're not allowed to talk like you're suddenly not a person.
Correct.
People get mad because they have a platform to say what they want. And these other persons in their underwear sitting in their living room on a keyboard and nobody listens
Keyboard
to me,
warriors.
And then you have people like, who was it? Anthony Mackie, I think it was. Don't quote me on this. I think it was him. But they were talking about like during Black Lives Matter and he was out speaking.
Yes.
And they were talking about how he was, I think it was him. It was either him or Michael B. Jordan. I don't remember which one it was. But we were talking about how like he would get in the front, maybe even John Boyega, because they were all there. But how he would get out there, get the attention on him as the actor, and then he'd say, now listen to them.
Yes.
These are the people you're listening to, not me.
Yes.
And he used his platform the right way, and...
But, I mean, everyone as a human being has a right to their opinion, especially now when we live in a society where everything is online, and I think that's been like the downfall of society.
Yes, very much.
Everything's online. We have access to so much information, and probably too much, that it begins to sway your opinion, and to the point where you don't really know what's true or not true, what's been fact checked, what's just someone's opinion or idea. Like our flat Earth people are gaining momentum, and I can't comprehend how that's still a thing. But okay. But that's the things. Like, you want to be so connected, but you don't really want to know what they really think. You want to have the vision. The vision of what you think they should be. And that's where
should have an opinion as long as your opinion is the same as mine.
And that's where this movie takes us.
Yeah, it takes us into a whole new world of different things while still being self-aware of the Scream franchise, the history. There were a lot of connections and callbacks to characters. Some throwaway lines that connected into stuff. There was one, because of my hearing when I saw it the first time, didn't even understand the connection. I'm like, this entire scene is a waste of time. And even when it came out, I still told you, I said, that scene's still kind of a waste of time. And then you reminded me, and I'm like, I still didn't hear that line. That changes the entire dynamic of that scene.
Mm-hmm. Because in this one, as you see on the poster, we have a whole new cast of characters. We still have our originals that are still with us.
And I'd like to say, without saying who, you even have a couple of throwaway characters that were introduced later in the franchise.
Yes.
They're very important that they came back. Yes. Because it connects you to...
So you do need to see 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, you need to see all 4 to understand, this character's been here before.
Yeah, so you understand why they're even important. Why do we even care?
Yeah.
Because they're there. And I found it interesting.
I'm not sure why any of those people didn't move, but whatever.
There's more people that are like just random scenes. And you're like, oh, there's so-and-so. Yeah. You're like, great, they're still here.
Like, there's a couple of them that had one scene, and it was awesome because you're like, and they only had one scene in their other appearance too.
Yeah.
And you're like,
and that's enough.
That's awesome. That keeps
it keeps it alive.
Legacy and storyline going. And can I say big props, like Gail and Dewey's relationship through the franchises, to me, has actually been bigger than Sydney's. Sydney was about the family and the victim and the evolution of that. Theirs was that dynamic of their relationship with each other that grew. And this movie, the new one, actually added depth to their characters and their storyline and closure, if you will, without making it feel like it was being shoehorned into a story that had nothing to do with them.
And I appreciate that in a sad way, it's very based on real life. Relationships go through rough patches, and we saw that in another
Especially with this
movie
much trauma
where
that
they had
were going
broken up and
Yeah.
then they got back together. And I don't want to tell you the state of where they are now, but it's interesting.
We all know they keep breaking up and getting back together.
Yeah, but it's interesting though that even no matter what, there's still love there and there's still that connection and that bond.
This
and I
movie to
appreciate
me
that
is
we
almost
see
a
that.
metaphor of their real life, because they were both married in real life. And this seems like this is probably where they are in real life as well.
I agree.
They love each other.
I
They
agree.
care about each other. They clearly been working together still, even though they're divorced and they're raising
that
kids
shouldn't
together.
matter.
But I get a vision that we weren't seeing this Dewey.
I don't
in
think we were
jail.
seeing acting.
We were seeing Courtney and
I
David,
agree.
and they just happen to be playing those characters.
Yes.
And big props to the new people also. For the first time in the entire franchise, Dewey was not a buffoon.
Thank you.
He was never an idiot. He was just kind of.
He was young and inexperienced.
But he was, even all the way to Scream 4, even though he was kind of cool, he was still.
He was cooler and
He was kind
fuller,
of
but
dumb
he was
and
really
clumsy.
cool in
He
this.
got some badass moments in the new one. And
Yeah,
got to finally show, like, I'm tired of this crap.
I am too.
And I love that they also made a lot of references, like, he's tired of getting stabbed. He's like,
Yeah.
dude, I'm not doing it. You know,
I'm
they
not
bring him
doing
in. He's
this.
like, you know, they're like, can you help us out? He's like, no, I've been stabbed 9 times. I don't want to go do this.
19.
Whatever. I'm just saying. He's like, I
Yeah,
don't want to do
whatever.
this anymore.
He's like, no.
You know, like at some point you get tired of getting stabbed.
I do also want to say I liked the addition of new characters who had to hold their own against the legacy, if you will, characters there. Because we're going now in the direction of a new movie of something that's very well known.
Yeah,
And
that's hard.
it's brought up in the movie. It's very self-aware of what this kind of movie is and what the rules are. But that is like, can you imagine, like, hey, I'm going to be the new whatever. Like, I mean,
it's kind of, to me, it was kind of the Star
having
Wars thing. It's like
yeah.
standing next to the original people, whether you love or hate the movies or not, the new cast having to carry a movie, yet having to share the screen with the people that made said movie.
correct.
And you're like, okay, we know the fans love you, but we don't know if they like us.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a lot what happened to Hayden Christensen. It's like, ugh, you know, not you. We want like Luke Skywalker back. He was whiny, but not as much as you, and that's not fair. And so I applaud these kids. It's a young cast of, you know, really good actors who really brought their A game, and in a short amount of time, I really care about this.
I really like this cast. Usually with these newer movies, like even with Scream 4, I never really fully cared about that cast. I liked them.
Yeah, I was
but
like,
I never got
it's
invested.
the Roberts girl. Yeah, I know her.
Well, it wasn't even that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I liked them in the movie,
It's
but it wasn't like
Hayden whoever.
Yeah, usually when you bring in these new younger casts, whether it's a remake or this kind of movie, it's hard to connect with them.
Mhm.
Even though, if you think back, when Scream came out, it was a cast just like this.
Correct.
You had to learn to connect with them for the first time. You didn't know these people.
But we connect with these people immediately.
So I have to ask you before I forget, who is your favorite new character? Let's see if we have the same one.
Oh my gosh.
I can tell you mine automatically.
I think it's gonna be the sister, the black girl.
Me too. The girl that Jasmine Savoy
The twins.
Brown. She's essentially.
I don't think they're twins. They're brother sister.
Yeah, I like the girl. She's essentially kind of the new Randy for this group, where she's the movie buff.
She's like, guys, don't you know the rules?
Yeah, she's the one that gives the great speeches. But what's good about her and Randy, if you know Randy's Jamie Kennedy in the original films, he was the one that always told them the horror rules and the elements. What I like about her, the difference is you never think Jamie Kennedy's doing it.
Correct.
In this movie, she could be the one doing it.
Well, and that's what she said. It could be anyone.
Yeah, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, but there's many times you're like, oh, it's that bitch.
Well, and it's funny because everyone now is self-aware, and it's like, don't go somewhere.
Anybody.
Don't trust anyone, but also don't go anywhere by yourself. But then there's this whole good dialogue. I'm not to tell you who, but one person's like, you didn't ask me to go with you, so I assumed you were. He's like, well, I wasn't going to ask you to go with me because what if you're the killer and you're trying to get me alone? I'm like, oh.
And then she's like, I am. And she's like, Not really, but what if I had been? You know,
Yeah.
and then you still don't know. You're like, what the hell, man?
And that's where we're at in the story, and it is so smart. And her speeches later on are like so like on point that I was looking at you and our friend Aaron because I'm like, Aaron's gonna so connect with this. Like,
right.
It is at an intelligent, cerebral level, but a slasher film at the same time.
And deals with stuff. Our friend Aaron owns a comic book store. Him and his wife, and he deals with this bullshit every
These
day.
people think this is real life.
We came out of the theater talking about it. He goes, "This is my life. This is the crap I deal with all the time."
Like, people having these existential crises over like this comic
throwing
book.
a fit or having just these dumb discussions about it, and we can't even talk trash because me and him have these discussions in the comic book store.
Well, and I have too, just about random things of like one of your superheroes or whatever, like a Marvel thing. I'm like, okay, but won't you think they would have, like, we get into this whole discussion, these people aren't even real.
And it's funny that I don't know why you ever get in this discussion with me because she knows none of the facts. I know the information, and you're trying to argue with me about the information that I already know.
I know, but that's that's the point of the movie. That's in the movie.
Now,
anyways,
the one difference to me in this new one that I loved is the killing and the angles and the way they did it was way more brutal to me than the previous films. They've all had blood in them and plenty of good kills. This one felt like anger. Very much like the last Halloween movie, Halloween Kills. It felt like anger. It felt like the person or people doing the kills hated you when they killed it, or they loved doing it, or they wanted you to suffer. It looked like prison killings.
Yes.
You know, there's a couple of them where they're like a shiv. There's one of my favorite. What do you think my favorite kill in the movie is?
There's one where somebody does this and they're like,
nope.
Oh.
Although there is a great one that I really, when somebody gets gutted, I do love how they did that. But that's not mine. Is the most simplistic kill of the movie, and it's because a guy's sitting there, somebody just walks around and goes crack, and it's just like out of nowhere. There's nothing you could have done about it.
There's another one where it goes through somebody's cachete, and I was like, oh.
I figured you were going to love that one because I know you like makeup effects and when it looks like that.
I love it. And then there was one. It was funny in one of these where I could see the prosthetic on something. I was like,
In this one,
I think it might have been part 4 as we were watching. I was thinking, this one looks good.
Yeah.
And I liked. There was one guy. Many people get slashed in the throat, but there's one where the guy, and like you can see the blood like going like this.
When it pulsates and stuff.
Oh, it's so good.
But also, I like this one. It's not
I like blood effects.
It's not all just held into inside houses and hospitals and
we're out.
There's some that are in broad daylight in the front yard of somebody's house,
and
you're like,
where are the neighbors?
Yeah, my neighbors always notice I couldn't kill nobody in my front yard. Everybody would know.
I know, because those people are home. This lady's home. Those people are there.
But again, that took this movie to a new place.
It was crazy.
It didn't veer away from the nature of the franchise. It created its own space in the franchise. I'm a little on the fence still with the twist. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I actually enjoyed it more the second time. The first time when I came out, it was like, this whole movie is very familiar. I don't know if I really like the twist because the more I sat with it, the twist makes so much more sense for today's time and
it's
climate.
Possible.
But when I watched the second time, I felt, and maybe it's because I knew what was going to happen, but I felt, I really dig this. I like where this went,
And I think,
I also, let me just say, I told you this on the way home. I really enjoyed the second viewing and watching. I didn't do it with the other ones I wish I had, but I really enjoyed watching to see how many times they basically told us who the killer was, why it was happening. They tell you through the whole movie if you really catch the nuances, but you won't know it just watching it the first time. But once you know, you'll see, oh, it's okay, I can see why they're doing this, and I can see what's happening. And like, I figured out who the killer was early on, but I also don't trust anybody.
I think in the first movie, when it gives you the rules, by the time you get to the second or third movie, you should be watching out for this. So by the time you get to this one, and they're like, look.
But they also flipped it on its head, and it's like, it's harder with a new cast to be like, how can this person be doing? And they don't waste a lot of time before they give you one of the big twists of the film, which again, I don't know how well that people.
Which I was just like,
yeah, I don't know how people are going to connect with that.
Let me make sure I see this right.
And I can't talk about it here. We'll talk about it more later on. But there's an element to it that I guess some people are going, oh, that's stupid. and other people, like, I understand what they were doing. It didn't completely make sense to me because of the separation of the characters that they dealt with.
Yeah.
But I understand what they were trying to do, and this way it connects.
No, I do, and I think it makes sense too if you take into account the horror genre as a whole. That type of person with that whatever's going on ends up normally being somebody of interest in other movies.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of how it happens. I think the other thing that I like about this new movie a lot too is because with now our group of friends, we have a much more diverse cast of like the main girls are Latinas. You have the brother and sister that are Black. You have an Asian friend. You have kind of like your white trashy girl. You have the popular girl. Wasn't that one girl Asian? Or am I assuming she is? I don't know. I thought she looked.
Which one are you talking about?
This girl.
I think you're not Asian.
I don't know. She looks.
She didn't look Asian at all. Looks, there's an Asian police officer.
Okay. And there's a black police officer. No, she looks very.
I thought she just looked like.
I thought she looks. She's pretty and she just looks cute.
She has a kind of an exotic look to her.
Yes, exotic is what I was thinking. But then you got like the trashy dude and you got the fancy girl and you got everybody equally represented, which in the first few movies it was just a bunch of white kids, not to be rude, but I mean that's what it was.
The climate of the time.
I know.
She was born in Los Angeles.
Okay, that didn't mean anything. I'll go find her. Don't you worry.
Anyway, moving on.
In my head, I just thought she was kind of Asian.
Bio, and it usually will tell her parents.
Okay, thank you.
Learn technology.
Anyways, I just liked that we had more diversity in all of this. It doesn't tell me there, so we're gonna go to the interwebs.
Anyway, we both really enjoyed the new entry. I think it's a good stamp on the franchise.
Agree.
It kind of, I think it will make up for some of the things that people didn't like about 3 and/or 4.
Yes.
It's also a good stepping stone to move forward with something new if they wanted to. I don't know if there's a plan to. Also, I think it's a good promotion for the guys that directed this movie for their other film that we love. Do you know what it is?
I have no idea.
The guys that directed this movie, but they also are called, I believe they're known as Radio Silence. That's their directing duo name.
Yes.
They did Ready or Not.
Oh, okay.
So it was interesting. They came up with a Scream idea. There were hardcore fans. Nev Campbell said no. So they met with her and said, here's our idea. And they convinced her to come back. And big props that there's even at the tag at the end that says, kind of a homage to Wes Craven. Because this is the first Scream movie in the entire franchise that was not directed by Wes Craven, who passed away, sadly. And also baffles me for a movie made by the guy.
So far off. She's Jewish. I apologize.
That makes more sense for her look.
She looks very cute.
But she, for somebody who's
Lithuania,
somebody who's well-known horror slasher classic outside of Scream is Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah,
talks a lot about Halloween. But Kevin West, the writer.
But remember, like in.
That's the writer, though. Not so much.
Even in part 1, there's like the Freddy sweater.
Yeah.
Even in part 2 or 3, there's the janitor wearing the Freddy sweater.
Of course, it's all there.
It's all there. All the homages.
Well, there's even one thing that I really like. We talked about earlier about the elevated horror mentality. Like this new movie touches on that. It doesn't just fall back to the classic slashers. When the phone call thing at the beginning, which opens like every other movie. She talks about the Babadook being one of her favorite films, and he's like,
"You like that?"
And he's like, "What is that? That's not a good one." And she's like, "It's elevated horror, kind of what you were explaining." And these movies
it's about
are actually
that little boy's sadness.
These movies are technically elevated horror in their own right.
Yeah, like I think I love this.
Disguised in a slasher comedy.
I love slashers, but I do like me some Midsommar.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's horror to me, but I guess
they don't bring Midsommar up, but they do bring up Hereditary, which is made by the same guy.
And
Hereditary is way more into the horror genre than Midsommar is.
Horror, yeah.
But Midsommar is a horror film, but
I don't think it is. I think it's a drama.
It's more of a horror thriller.
Yeah,
it's a cult horror film.
That's me singing.
Okay, anyway.
Sorry. That's my Midsommar.
And the big news is Scream is the movie that finally knocked Spider-Man off of #1.
Wow,
it was #1 this
weekend.
I think it's projected to make anywhere from between 30 and 35 million.
That is
on a budget of 25 million.
Wow.
So if it does that, it's already a hit. I think it'll have legs because word of mouth of the reviews It has a B cinema score from fans. It's got an A cinema score, I think, from critics. It
Nice.
seems to be doing really well. So there's probably will be a discussion if there'll be any more if it keeps having the legs that it does.
It'd be something completely different.
But I don't know. They do some stuff at the end that could easily.
That's what I'm telling you. It'd be a completely different direction.
Yeah,
I hope.
That and some stuff Wes Craven said about Scream 4 and somebody who says is still alive before he passed away, they could always bring them back as a legacy character.
Okay.
Even though they're not legacy, really, they're only in one movie, but they're still from previous films. So there's a lot of options that you can still do, but we'll see. But Scream is in theaters now. Hotel Transylvania is on Amazon Prime. Video
Prime Video.
Right now. So you can check both those out. And two totally different options of the horror genre. One's a comedy cartoon, and the other one's a comedy slasher.
I'm going to put a sign that says Prime Video.
That's right. So you remember to say the right
Prime
thing.
Video. Lord have mercy. All right. Tell me what's coming out. Sorry. We went long on that.
Yeah, we didn't think we were going to go very long because we thought we only got two things to talk about.
You get me talking about Scream.
I know. So we have our giveaways haven't changed a whole lot. There's only one new edition. Not Bobby Brown's new edition, but new edition. We still have copies of the mini Saints of Newark, Hell Hath No Fury. Those are going to keep going a little bit longer because I have extra copies. Dune on 4K, Cry Macho, the latest Clint Eastwood movie.
My computer has fizzled out. Sorry, friends.
Are we not online anymore?
No, the screen share stopped. And that's why I was going to get rid of the screen.
We're still online, right?
We're still online.
Okay, so I'll just keep talking.
You keep talking.
Anyway, the latest Clint Eastwood, Cry Macho.
It does that.
Malignant, which is the latest James Wan movie. And the newest one, which is ironic, we mentioned a few times here, is we have copies of Halloween Kills to give away, which is also the extended edition of Halloween Kills.
Nice.
So it's available on Blu-ray, 4K, and DVD now, but we have copies to give away. So if you're a fan of the Halloween franchise or any other franchise, go to our website at
HollywoodMatrimony.com
and enter the contest. What you got, sister?
All right. Oh, no. Yeah, you got to tell me you've skipped
what's
your
coming
Blu-rays.
All right. It's a small week this week. We have, is it Titan, which is something I really wanted to see. I've seen a bunch of trailers for. It's some kind of this weird, it looks like an acid trip flick. Last Night in Soho is coming out to Blu-ray, DVD, and 4K, which we really dig. The Beatles, A Hard Day's Night, which is currently on... No, that's not. No, this is the Hard Day's Night movie. Excuse me. The Beatles' Hard Day's Night's getting released on the Criteria Collection. Akira, the greatest manga anime film of all time, is getting the 4K treatment. If you've never seen Akira, then shame on you. You need to watch it. And Addams Family 2, the second edition of the animated feature, is coming to Blu-ray as well.
Okay.
One we'll talk about next week, The Toolbox Murders, which is a 70s slasher flick, I believe, or 80s, whatever. It's getting the 4K treatment. We'll be talking about that because you've never seen that one.
Correct.
So we're going to check it out, and we'll talk about it next week. That's it.
Okay. Am I on oh, my gosh.
What are you doing? Are you in the wrong year?
It took me to January 2021.
I have no idea what is even coming out this week. Why are you looking at the hydro rower machine?
Oh, my gosh. This thing took me to the wrong thing. I clicked January, but it took January 2021. I was like, wait a minute.
You don't want to go back to those years.
Lord have mercy.
Do you even know what's happening in this world?
I do know what's happening in this world.
You are not a good host.
I am the hostess with the mostest.
Well, the mostest nonsense.
Okay, so coming out on Monday on Prime Video, you've got to watch this. It's The Tender Bar. It's the new movie with Ben Affleck, directed by George Clooney, and it has that cute little boy. What's his name? Daniel something?
I don't remember.
Anyways, it is a great movie. Bring a tissue. One day only. Oh, this is so sad. The Betty White 100-year young birthday celebration is going to be airing online on Monday.
It was supposed to be an actual birthday event with her, and now it's going to be obviously something else.
Yes, so it's okay. Coming out on Tuesday on Video Demand and Digital, a movie called Ditched. Their paramedics are trapped with some violent prisoners, and they need to escape. That's all you need to know about that. Coming out on Thursday on Netflix, one of these little rom-coms, if you will. A little girl named Isabella runs into Prince Thomas, and they fall in love. Coming out Friday. Here we go. This is the one that I've just... I'm not going to say anything. The King's
Oh, the one
Daughter.
that looks awful?
It's the mermaid movie with Pierce Brosnan. And then that one girl that we like is the mermaid fan. Bing 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 fan is the mermaid.
Movie looks like trash.
The trailer I saw was not great quality. Maybe it's going to be really good.
No, it's not.
Also, oh Lord, another one of these books, movies, Redeeming Love, based on the best-selling novel by Francine Rivers.
Might be interesting because that's one about somebody being sold into slavery and all kinds of stuff.
It's Nina Drubbrick, so I'll probably watch it.
Which I turned down a screening link for it because I'm not going to watch it.
I know, I'll probably watch it. I like her.
There's really nothing coming out this week.
Coming to Netflix, Munich, The Edge of War. Again, another movie based on the best-selling book. We're in the time period of Adolf Hitler invading Czechoslovakia. Prime Video, A Hero.
I've been hearing a lot about that.
It's got this guy who needs to pay a debt. The creditors are coming to kill him, basically. Yeah, I don't know anything about these. So yeah, there's nothing
really
super
nothing coming out this week, is there?
And coming out Saturday, because we won't see each other until after.
We won't see each other? We live together.
These people. Oh. Coming to Netflix is a movie called Brazen. It looks like one of those hot, sexy kind of movies. It's got Alyssa Milano.
Yeah, it can't be too hot and sexy.
So if you're an Alyssa Milano fan.
I am, but I know a lot of people aren't now that she's all outspoken about stuff.
So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
You want to see hot, sexy Alyssa Milano, go back and watch, what is that, vampire movie?
Oh, Lord.
You'll
think of it. Anyways, there's, I think the big one's going to be probably that Redeeming Love, whatever.
I think all these movies will be forgotten. It'll be Scream and Spider-Man again.
But we'll go watch The King's Daughter.
No, we
need
won't.
to watch it.
We won't be going to watch
I'm trying to support Bing Bing.
I will not support her because I don't want to watch that movie.
Anyways, I'll probably watch these Netflix movies.
Okay, well, so we got other.
We have things to watch.
Some Blu-rays
don't worry.
And, stuff to watch
and Betty White's 100-year
I'm not
party.
Watching that either. But we have some other Blu-rays and stuff that we got to watch and some different stuff popping up. So we'll figure out something.
Oh, my goodness.
We'll cancel the show.
Wow. Thank you so much for watching this very long episode of Hollywood Matrimony Live. We're so sorry. But thank you for sticking with us. Not really. Thanks for watching. Make sure you go like, share, subscribe, tell everyone you know. Go visit the website, HollywoodMatrimony.com. Don't forget to click the contest button for all the free stuff. And we will see you next week.
Peace and love.